Welcome back, everyone, or what is up, everyone? I don't know why I keep saying that. To Puzzled Minds podcast, and today we have Ricky from the Spoiler Force podcast joining us. So please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to be on this podcast, man.
Thank you, thank you for taking out the time to talk about anime with us. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, there it is. Today's topic is brought to you by the letter A for anime, and for those that are about to turn it off, just wait.
Don't you do it.
Yeah. Today we'll be talking about how Disney, and I'm sure everyone here knows Disney. If you don't, then get out of the fucking rock.
Exactly.
Disney influenced anime, and kind of the flip side of how anime influenced Disney. So it's a very small section, but I think it's definitely worth talking about. We also want to talk. We're going to introduce a new section called "What's Got You Puzzled," and essentially it's just where we talk about something that's been on our mind, puzzling us. It could be anything from like pop culture, current events, or stuff like why do we wipe our ass and just not have bidets everywhere? Stuff like that. Like what's got you puzzled? So my first one. Oh, I guess, does anyone want to start? I don't want to keep talking.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I thought this would be appropriate considering the holidays coming up. Vanilla extract or vanilla flavoring. Do you guys know where that comes from?
No. I feel like
Isn't that like from like a stick or something?
Specifically a beaver's ass.
Yeah.
Well, I am. That's done.
So just a little backstory. This happened at a conversation at work, and I can't remember what happened, but something happened in the sense of like we were talking about vanilla something, and like, oh, did you know that vanilla flavoring came from beavers' asses? And I had to look this up because I was like, nah, there's no fucking way.
That sounds like a flat lie. Like if someone says that, I'm like, okay, really, bro? Like really?
Well, it's definitely true. Specifically, it's like an anal secretion, which makes it even better.
Oh god, that's even worse.
Yeah,
Like I'm visualizing
Fucking booty
that
juice.
Oh, you
It's fucking booty juice. Oh god.
I actually have a question for you guys in a little bit, but what the goo is called, and I think it's called castoreum. I think that's what it's called, and they essentially use that to mark their territory. But here's the thing that's kind of interesting is that the FDA kind of thinks of it as like a safe additive, and they've been using it in like perfumes and food for like at least 80 years.
Wait, so when it comes out of the beaver's ass, does it taste like vanilla is the question? Or is it mixed with something that eventually tastes like the vanilla extract that we apparently are no longer going to fucking ingest because of this shit?
So I think it's normally, so I guess when we think of like ass secretions, we think of like stinky, like like shit, like literal shit, like. But I think because of the way it said, like due to their diet, I think it's mostly like just leaves and bark and whatever the fuck else beavers eat. They don't really have that like stinky ass shits. And it has like this kind of like unique vanilla-ish smell. And they probably add more stuff to it, but I think that's the basis of it.
Dude, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm right now. I'm disgusted, but give me a week when I forget about this. I'm not gonna care. I'm going back to eating vanilla beaver ass. Apparently, I didn't even know.
So my question is: would you guys, if you guys knew this already, would you guys go up to a beaver's ass and just lift it up and smell it?
No.
No.
Do that.
It'll smell like vanilla. You don't have to lick it. You just got to smell it. Like just take a good whiff.
Nah, for money, I would. For money, now that you've told me this, you've given me this information. For money, yeah, I could fucking do it. Give me like $1,000, and I'll sniff a beaver's ass. Well, it has to secrete the oil. It can't just. It never said its ass smells like it. It can still smell like fucking shit.
Okay, you know what? It'll be like when you don't really wipe your ass too well. Like you still have like a little residue. Let's just assume that like there's a little bit of like vanilla ass residue.
God, dude, that's just disgusting. That is like the worst like fact to find out, man.
Well, that's what's got me puzzled. So, just in time for the holidays, go eat some beaver ass, everyone.
Dude, no, this is no good.
That's a great way to start the what's got you puzzled. So let's keep this going.
Dude, I'm trying to think. Like, do you have anything, Ricky?
Yeah, there was one. I mean, you guys already spoke about this on previous episodes too, but like for me, I've been getting into more like simulation theory lately.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, so I recently watched Tom Cruise's Vanilla Sky not too long
oh,
ago.
look at that! What a
somewhat
coincidence.
appropriate.
Yeah, so yeah, so that movie, I don't know. As a kid, when I watched it, I hated it because I didn't get it. But now that I'm older and I understand more of that science stuff, I was like, damn, it might be possible, man. Like
Mm,
not so much if right now if we wake up if it's not reality, but putting yourself in a system like that to make
Mhm.
yourself believe that it's reality. I don't know, that was really intriguing and made me kind of like, I guess you could say, puzzled because um, it almost seems like we could be there pretty soon.
mm.
Mm.
Me, in the meantime, I'm gonna pull up something that I'd sent. Do you remember what I had said to you, Tadiwa? And I sent it to Stuart too. That one of my friends had said. Let me go see if I can find it. Something about simulation theory. Oh, here it is. Okay. Shout out to Barry. He's the one that brought this idea up. Essentially, what if when we get dizzy, or when we get dizzy when we spin because the simulation gets buggy and it has to render so fast?
Yeah, I remember that one. That one kind of ruined my day.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one, but I know like deja vu moments are kind of like
Mm.
Yeah,
related to that.
deja vu. What did we say about deja vu? About how that's like your future self. There's like a glitch in the simulation or something like that, and it's telling you.
Yeah, deja vu is like a glitch because basically it's maybe like you open too many tabs in your virtual browser.
Yeah. No, yeah. Simulation theory is always a good one to go down because you know the fact that it's probably more likely than it's not is really interesting, and there's a lot of people that I think believe in that
Mhm.
theory, which I guess high level scholars believe in it as well. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, we got like VR and AR equipment coming out too, so
Yeah,
I mean, we're pretty close.
yeah, definitely. What about you, Tadiwa?
Well, I got like two. They're kind of like a combination of two things that are pretty odd. But I was for some reason I've been going back and forth between this whole thing about whether immortality be something that we actually would desire. Like, let's say you
Oh,
had
from
the
last week's.
ability to. Yeah, I kind of got my I don't know, like interest in immortality. I go through phases where immortality seems like a cool thing because you have
Mhm.
an infinite amount of time to learn things and explore and all that stuff. And then there's a phase where it's like a curse. It sucks because you get to you love and see all your loved ones die. Everything. I feel like it eventually will make you depressed and things will suck. But anyway, there was this thing where I was reading about this jellyfish, which is technically immortal. And there's this guy named Kyle Hill. He does this program called like I forget I'm forgetting the name of it, but he basically does like nerd science, basically fictional scenarios, and tries to utilize real life physics and science and math to explain crazy situations like how strong is the Flash's infinite mass punch, how strong is
Mhm.
Saitama's serious punch, like stuff like that. He does really cool
Yeah.
stuff, but he actually uses real life science. So he was saying that technically for a human being, if you were, let's say, for example, biologically immortal, right? So basically, your body will never die. Like your body won't deteriorate because basically what happens is mortality is that your cells and your bodies, and your organs, all that shit deteriorate over time. That's biological. Like that's basically what happens. We just die over time. So basically, let's say you're granted immortality. He said that based off the way the planet is and based off how things are, you would not. It would be impossible to live forever because now your chances of dying from something else increase. Like
Mhm.
for example, the chances of you get dying from a lightning strike go up if you live forever.
Yeah, that makes
So the
sense.
reason so the reason why they say that, like for example, like the chance of you getting killed by a lightning strike is because it is very minimal, is because average human being lives, let's say 80 years, right? So what are the odds of you getting hit by something within this amount of time? That's why it's so minimal. But let's say you live forever, you would eventually die. So he said the average human probably could live 8,000 years before dying of a freak accident. So there's really no, if you were biologically immortal, you would die from that. You would die from something else then, which would actually be worse. So then he's thinking, would you want it? Because also as well too, guess what?
Mm.
Biologically immortal does not mean you're immune to diseases. It just means that if you
Like your
stay
cells
like if
don't break down and
your cells don't
deteriorate
break
and stuff
down,
like that.
Wait, so
exactly. Your
you,
cell
you can live forever, but then you can still get killed off by something else.
You can get killed off by disease. You can get killed off by a gunshot. You can fall down the fucking stairs. It doesn't matter. You can die from everything else you can normally die from, but you're just immortal if you basically, you basically just don't do anything reckless. But he was saying that like that's how the universe balances things out. I guess you could say the average person could probably go about 8,000 years before something would happen. So drowning or getting hit by a car or something, those all start going up, which I thought was pretty cool. I was like, oh shit. So does that raise the question, mean that like technically there is no such thing as immortality, even if we were to able to get some degree of it?
Yeah, immortality doesn't really sound that much fun anymore. So I'm just gonna go with let's just transfer our conscious to a robot, so we can definitely live forever.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Cool. So that is the segment of what's got you puzzled. We had vanilla, and immortality. So that's a good one. I like
I
that.
found out we went from fucking beaver booty juice to immortality.
Yeah, I like that. So let's go to the topic of the episode. So I wanted to do this because I was searching something on like what we should do this week, and I was like, oh, let's do anime, but let's put a twist on it in the sense of how can we make it so it's relatable to everyone. And I thought maybe Disney would be a really good one because everyone knows Disney. Everyone has that Disney Plus or whatever the fuck it's called, where they have their own streaming service. So when you look more into it, Disney's influence on anime is pretty significant. So Snow White came out in like the 30s or 40s. I can't remember what year it was. And before that, in like Japan, they were making short animations. They weren't very long. But when Snow White came out, I think that's what kind of catalyzed Japanese animators to kind of make more longer films. So I'm not sure, I guess what did I say? Like 30s, 40s, something like that.
Yeah. So long animated films.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. They were like longer films. Like I don't know the length of what, the Japanese were doing before Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but how long is Snow White? Does anyone know off the top of their head?
Of course. I've always been waiting for someone to ask me this question.
I want to say like at least an hour, because I know old anime like way back was like just frame by frame. It wasn't even animation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you look at it like at today's standards, an hour's just like, oh, that's a Netflix special or whatever it is, but what Ricky had said, it's frame by frame. And there's a guy, a famous, I guess he's a famous animator, Osamu. I think Ricky, you probably know his name, maybe Osamu Tezuka. He had made Astro Boy for people that know.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know the name of the artist, but I do know the show.
Astro Boy. Okay, so for people that don't know, whip out that Google and look up Astro Boy. I think people know like what he looks like. It might be like a maybe iconic like drawing.
Like he's one of those characters where I don't think he's as iconic as Mickey Mouse, but I think the average person knows like that's from something.
Yeah.
I think Astro Boy is one of those weird ones where I think a lot of people probably don't know his name is Astro Boy.
Yeah. Like if you see a picture, you're like, oh, that looks familiar, but you don't. Like I was guilty of that because I've never watched anything of Astro Boy, but I've seen his picture around. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's like certain classic animes that don't even make you feel like they're anime. Astro Boy's one of them. Speed Racer was one. Like if you didn't catch that, if it was like a classic anime, but because I think they used to always be on like on Cartoon Network or American like TV shows. Yeah. So they used to always get mixed up with the American cartoons.
So the creator of Astro Boy, he had borrowed some stuff from the Disney films, I guess the characters, and I think he had said it was like the big eyes, the big expressive eyes, and kind of like
that's why it looks so relatable. Yeah, Astro Boy. That's the reason why I think even to what Ricky was saying is like Astro Boy is one of those animes you wouldn't even realize is an anime because it kind of caught into that category of like almost like Pokemon, where it's like they don't look like traditional anime characters, which are a combination of sometimes they look white with Asian features, I guess, because that's like that. it's almost like with some of these characters, like what's the stereotypical anime? Like I think like something like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto is what most people would associate with stereotypical anime looking characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they have a mix of different races. But like Astro Boy, for the most part, you could believe that world was almost like the U.S. Like it took place in like a Western society to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah, so he had borrowed like the big eyes, the big heads, and stuff like that. And I think he had said he had done it for two reasons. And I think one of them was he wanted to it helped like cut cost. I'm not sure how. I guess maybe the way that he like the simplified animation style maybe helped cut costs. And he also wanted to also still ensure that like his work, whether it be manga or anime, didn't sacrifice any of the emotional intensity that he had, if that makes sense. I'm not sure. Like, I think it was in an interview that he had mentioned something like that. But anyway, so the design for Astro Boy was actually influenced by Betty Boop, and I'm not sure if that's Disney. I should have looked that up. But
I
essentially,
see that. They look the same.
yeah, Betty Boop has like a big ass head. I never really looked at that until recently. And, I always thought she just had that like sexualized like look, but then her fucking head is huge. So
Yeah,
maybe
a lot of the classic Japanese cartoons were definitely very abstract, almost like you said, Disney, like with the, especially with how they're drawn. Like a lot of anime nowadays, they're kind of more, I guess, more human looking now. Not really exactly, but they have more humanistic features compared to back then. Like back then, there's like only like four fingers or very curved faces and stuff like that. So I think with how Disney did theirs, I think for classic Japanese anime, I think they kind of drew inspiration from that because it was a way for their audience to kind of latch onto their characters too.
So this next part, I wrote something down, and maybe you guys can help clarify it. But he had said, when he was kind of merging American and Japanese comic art, he essentially developed a streamlined style that leveraged ellipses. He said very similar to Disney's style, which helped him kind of draw faster and develop longer stories. I don't know what the hell that means. Like leverage ellipses. Do you guys know what that means?
I have no
I don't.
idea.
No? All right. Well, fuck it. Just whoever's listening, disregard that. But that's kind of like the gist of it in the sense of like, I guess Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs kind of started or propelled like the influence and how, the anime would shape and essentially influence the later on animes to come, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like that was the beginning of the genres. I guess like art styles mixing, and I can see how they influence each other because if you look at some of Disney's films, like their art styles change significantly from each film. Like, I mean, I use examples like Mulan, for example, right? Not to put like the nail on the head, but like Mulan has a very distinctly different art style than some of the other things like Snow White, right? And I think that's a perfect example of almost the anime influence in the sense of like the characters' faces are very angular. Also, as well too, you notice that the way they move is a little bit more fluid, and I think that's something that's associated with anime. Where anime, the body movements, like we were talking about before, on off air on the podcast about how like what makes anime distinct from regular cartoons is the attention to detail and the physics of things, even if it's like a very fictional situation transpiring. They show it in like grave detail. And that's something now you notice like as well too, where like what's that one Mickey Mouse movie? I keep forgetting it came out a long time. Is it Fantasia? One of the most famous ones?
Goofy movie.
No, I think no, it's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Fantasia. Yeah,
yeah, Fantasia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you see how if you watch Fantasia, if you watch it now, it's still even though it looks dated, the way the characters and all those weird rooms move, the physics holds up. It looks so fluid. And I can see
Fantasia
how
was pretty old too. I'm pretty sure. Like the original date was
ancient, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
I want to say at least maybe 50s. It's definitely not like recent in terms of like 20 years. It's
hell no.
old. Yeah.
Yeah, Fantasia is like almost like 2 generations ago.
Mm.
But it's just, if you look at the way like it was like the brooms move when like like they get enchanted and like they're walking on their bristles, and it doesn't just look like it's stick animation. It's very fucking fluid. And even the way like when Mickey like slips in water and like he falls, like it's the whole body, his arms go in the air, his legs go in the air. It's not just like a cartoon flop,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can see how that like kind of that attention to detail was maybe like gathered from anime, because before that, I mean, American cartoons were very simple. You had like Steamboat Willie, right? Homeboy was just on a boat, just jumping up and down, like breathing like wind. For some reason, like how they showed air back in the day was like he was like gasping. It wasn't like he was taking regular breaths. It was just like gasping for air, and they would always show that. But other than that, cartoons are very simple. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, American cartoons did a complete 180. And then you see things like, I mean, if you look at Disney now, it's just a completely different thing. Now everything's just it's just thrown into a melting pot. But
Mm.
it was kind of cool to see like some of those earlier on cartoons or like the transition. Now it's just hard to tell because everything's just fused together.
Yeah. Do you have any other input, Ricky, on how maybe anime had or Disney had influenced anime?
I was looking up, I guess what you were calling the ellipses.
Yeah.
I think maybe that was for anyone who's listening. Correct us if we're wrong too. I think it's where they were trying to send out a physical message or something like that, or like do like a facial expression without making any sound. I think that's what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
Disney they do that a lot in their older animated films. Like dancing or moving with the sound, and
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like Looney Tunes was known for doing that too, like just making their characters move around and just go along with the music. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
maybe that played a big part for anime too, just making sure their characters move along with the soundtrack or to kind of express some sort of emotion so audiences can kind of see it without trying to guess what they're doing.
Mm. Okay, so the more I'm just kind of like looking at it again, I thought ellipsis was kind of like you know how some people draw like circles, aka ellipses, as like the bases. Is
That's
that
exactly what I was thinking. The characters
yeah,
became a little bit more round looking and rather
yeah,
than very angular.
and it makes sense. It would make it a little bit faster too, but I I guess we would have to time travel back and ask him
Yeah.
what the fuck he meant, because
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows what the hell he means, but
And
um, what's
I
up?
mean, I could be wrong, but it's that's how I
Yeah.
interpreted it.
Well, fuck it. Whoever's listening, you can interpret it any way you want. So I have the the other side of the coin, how anime influenced Disney, and so they're the guys who worked on like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, stuff like that. It was influenced by Hayao Miyazaki. For those that don't know, he's a creator of movies such as like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and Princess Mononoke. And those are definitely great films. Check those out. I don't think I think I've watched Spirited Away. That's the only one I've watched. I need to watch the other ones.
If you have HBO Max, all of Studio Ghibli stuff's on there.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah.
Sign up for HBO Max and you can indulge into the greatness. And then his influence kind of reaches out even more so in like directors. And so do you guys know anything about Kim with the White Lion?
Yeah, I think that was like the comparison
no,
to Lion King, right? Where
Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, I still get confused on which one came out first, but they're practically the same story.
So, so the guy who made Astro Boy, I know I'm like flipping between two names between Miyazaki and Tezuka, but for those who are listening, Tezuka is the guy who made Astro Boy, and he also made um, I guess like a series. I guess I want to say it's called Kim with the White Lion, and anyone that's listening, look it up. And essentially, that one came out in the '60s, I think, and then Lion King came out in the 90-ish. I can't remember what year it was. So, but it was definitely like way after Tezuka had wrote it. And yeah, what Ricky was saying is that there's very, very similar similarities. If you look up a video on YouTube, you could probably find out someone who's made like the actual effort to to point out the similarities, but I've never seen Kim of the White Lion, but from the video that I've seen, it kind of looks like it's like plagiarized. Like just no effort with the Lion King. And the similar situation with Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Do you guys ever watch that one?
No, I haven't seen that one. I mean,
So
what did I say? Art, it said imitation is the ultimate form of flattery. I guess please replace imitation with plagiarism.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty much plagiarized. That one, the Atlantis one, is kind of, I guess, quote, plagiarized in the sense of Nadia, the Secret Blue Water. It's from another studio in Japan, I think, and it's very, very similar.
I mean, what it surprised me, like, also, I mean, I guess I wonder if it's considered plagiarism when something is adapted for a different culture, right?
I mean, if it's not credited, then I think it might be appropriation.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here we go, cancel culture.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It's very hard with these classic cartoons and movies. But I want to say it's an inspiration. Hopefully they got credit for what they got, but
Yeah,
if not, then I don't know. That's already long ago, so you can't really cancel them.
you'd be surprised. The other thing, so the guys from Pixar, I think that's what it is. They had done an interview and they had said that whenever they're stuck like writing films, whether it be like Monsters Inc., and I think they made Frozen too, they just pop a Miyazaki film and just kind of inspire them. So you can kind of see that, Miyazaki. Okay, for those that are listening again, Miyazaki is the one that made all the studio.
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone knows a Hayao Miyazaki film and doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, his artwork is definitely standoutish. Like you can tell that it's his artwork. It's just I guess it depends on who's really into his movies, and in his background and all that stuff.
Yeah, because it's like you have a very good point, Ricky. Because if you see all his films, they all look the same. Not in terms of like the subject matter, but like the way he draws characters. They're always very friendly. Like he doesn't draw scary characters. Have you noticed? Like even it can be like a straight up like bloodthirsty looking dragon, and it'll still look cute somehow.
So that's actually really interesting because I think I remember reading something about how to Train Your Dragon was kind of influenced by Miyazaki too. Like I don't know, so maybe you guys are better equipped to answer this question, but with his fights, were they kind of more, I guess, pacifist, if that makes sense? Like they weren't really all blood out gory, but
he always had a philosophical like meaning behind his films. Like he's one of those I guess he's considered a director, or would you say a filmmaker? What would you consider Miyazaki? The artist?
I think everything really, just director, artist, writer. He did a lot.
I guess the easiest way to say creator. He's one of those rare creators where he could he could perfectly encapsulate his themes through his work. And I think even when he showed like, violence and things like that, it never seemed out of place. It always seemed like it was there for a reason to progress that meaning throughout the entire film.
Like everything had a purpose, like every scene had a purpose.
Yeah, like every scene had a purpose. Like even some of his movies may be long, they didn't feel long. Because like it's one of those things where it's very entertaining on top of like this the way you're just shocked how someone can create this, because all that stuff is like animation is just ridiculous how far it's come. And back in the day when you find someone like him who's like a visionary and ahead of their time, it just blows me away that he could create something like Spirited Away. Like that movie still holds its weight today. That's crazy. And considering how crazy anime is today. Yeah,
his artwork or his craft definitely still has a huge influence on anime today. Even like I'm forgetting his name, but the director and the creator for like the movies like Your Name and Weathering with You, he's heavily inspired by Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Miyazaki, I think I'm saying his name wrong, but still, like I don't blame like Pixar or Disney trying to draw influence from him, because like Tad said, his artwork, his movies had messages throughout the entire film. It wasn't just one thing. It was always bits and pieces of everything, and it all connected. And at the end, you were just engaged with these characters.
Yeah, I'm after talking to this, I kind of just want to maybe this week and kind of pop another one in and kind of, I guess, get inspired, kind of like Pixar has. I don't really know which one to watch. I think my wife has like a few of them on DVD actually, so I'll have to pop those out. But if you don't, go to HBO Max, which we're not sponsored yet. So if you are listening
Exactly.
HBO, please
Don't
do.
go until we're sponsored.
Yeah. Um, and I don't really have anything else in terms of like how Disney influenced anime and vice versa. Do you guys have any last questions, comments, or whatever the fuck you guys have?
Well,
Well, I
I
like.
think. Oh, go
No,
ahead,
go
Ted.
ahead. Go ahead, Ricky.
Okay. Well, I think Disney and pretty much just anime in general, there's so much similarity to it, and
Mhm.
you can tell like with how Japanese artworks influence in America is currently now. I read an article somewhere on, I think it was a CNN article, like how anime wasn't really um like it wasn't really advertised as much. It was always like word of mouth and people just finding out what it was, and then by the time you knew it, it was just there. And I think in America, especially, a lot of kids growing up with anime, like with the streaming services like Crunchyroll and um, Funimation and all that stuff, they're able to see different styles of artwork compared to like how we have here with Nickelodeon and Disney and Cartoon Network and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So I think what anime draws especially is definitely story driven characters and growth compared to a lot of these cartoons now. And again, this is just my opinion on this. There's great cartoons out there, don't get me wrong, but like with kids growing up with something that can influence them, for example, like My Hero Academia, that's a great anime for someone in their preteens to grow up with, to understand, you know, struggling or to achieve one's goal or something like that.
Mhm.
Like Naruto's a prime example of that. Being the best of what you can be. So I think
Yeah.
Disney's kind of like taking those kind of influences and putting it in their
Oh,
movies, and vice versa with anime. Like I on our Instagram chat, I sent you guys. There's one called Mrs. Green Apple, like this anime in Japan that's coming out soon. I don't know if it's
oh,
out yet, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
heavily influenced by Disney. Like these characters are going out there in a tournament with like Disney characters. So I don't
Hmm.
know if it's going to be sub or dubbed or not, or being released in the States. But if anyone who is listening, definitely check out that trailer. But it's all in Japanese, so I don't know if there's any like
Uh,
English subtitles
Yeah,
yet.
it looks like it's something off of uh what the hell's that thing called? What's that game called that everyone loves? Kingdom Heart? Looks like
Yeah,
something like
oh
Kingdom
that.
yeah,
Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like
and
something
that's
like
another big example too. Kingdom Hearts. Like, I mean, it's not so much anime per se, but it's still Japanese gaming, and with
yeah.
Square Enix being one of the
Fuse.
best
Yeah.
JRPGs out there.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah.
throwing
It's
Disney in
fusing
there
two
was
genres. Yeah.
yeah.
Disney's interesting because I mean, not to mention like there are a lot of now animes now you can see that are just like taking from Western like I guess I say Western culture, or even the style as well too. Because you noticed as well too, in the end of what's it? I keep butchering the name. Is it Jujutsu Kaisen? Is that how it's pronounced?
Jujutsu
Yeah,
Kaisen.
yeah, Jujutsu
Jujutsu,
Kaisen.
yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen. The ending credits, you see like the music and everything is so different, and I'm like, this looks like something that would come out in the U.S. Even the style and the fashion of the characters
Mm,
is like Western. It's like a Western way where a Western like I say like urban or street kid would dress like I guess you
yeah.
can say like hype beast or whatever, right? And then now you look at cartoons where you see these cartoons that are bridges between two worlds. Like Avatar is a cliche example of that, where Avatar clearly was influenced by anime,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
see how like basically took so many things, whether it's the attention to detail, the way the bending styles are, or it's just how like one thing you notice about anime is that anime puts a lot of depth into their world building, where everyone in the show matters, right?
Hmm.
That's something that I feel like Western cartoons borrowed from anime. And then you look at anime, and well, anime borrowed from like the Western style is like My Hero Academia, where these characters clearly, All Might's clearly based off Superman, a very
Mm,
cliche golden or silver age, like I'll say silver age Superman, where it's like the epitome of perfection, all that stuff. There's a very black and white way of looking at morality. those, you can tell those influences came from the US, or even how like even Deku looks, for example. A lot of these characters have aesthetics that are, kind of just bleeding over from US culture. Attack on Titan is a perfect example. I don't know where that place takes place, but like all those characters look dead white. Like all those guys look like they live in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they're definitely European inspired for sure.
Yeah,
Just
like
by their names.
yeah,
No, that's
exactly.
true.
Like Aaron Yeager, like he looks exactly like somebody that's like, I don't know, like a German dude,
His
And
dad
it's kind of
German too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's cool to see that these that things can have influence each other in a positive way, because very
Yeah.
rarely in this day and age do you see that. So
Yeah.
Ted, I wanted to add on to what you said too about like urban like styles to anime. I had this talk with on, if you follow Spoiler Force podcast, I had a live stream last week with Brandon from Pew's Clothing. He's a local clothing brand owner here in Detroit. We were talking about like how Black culture has a huge impact on anime nowadays. And you look at guys like Long Beach Griffey, King Vader, Caleb City, all these content creators who are influencing like different styles to anime now, and how
Yeah.
hip hop is definitely a huge I guess I don't want to say money grabber, but it's a huge draw for anime, mixing rap and hip hop versus like the classic pop rock style music. And so I think it's great that Japan is also adapting to how the US culture is changing, but they're still keeping their roots of their storytelling and how their characters I guess interact with each other still the same as it used to be.
Yeah, everything is still same at its core. The aesthetic is changing, so the package it comes in is different, but the actual core themes and centralized storylines going through all these shows stays the same. Because if you look at Naruto, bro, Homeboy's in an orange jumpsuit, dude. He's in a Drake jumpsuit. Like there's nothing ninja about some of the stuff they wear. Like
He's
all that stuff.
He's the most standout ninja ever. He's blonde and he's wearing an orange suit.
Exactly. And then if you look at the anime Tokyo Ghoul was like when they just blatantly did not give a single damn. They mixed fashion in that show like a motherfucker. Where like even the main dude Kaneki like had this cool, like his outfit was almost like a fitted tall tee with like the like long shorts with the combat boots. Like he looked like a New York hipster. and half the ghouls had tattoos, and then also as well too, a lot of anime protagonists you notice are heavily pierced. That's like a go-to thing nowadays, where they have like the top two cartilage piercings. You always see kind of like these specific kind of fashion statements, and something it's like they feed off each other, because I always use the thing like I think now like K-pop artists look like anime characters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They flat look at anime characters, and then all of a sudden anime starts getting influenced by K-pop people, where you're like, wait a second, does K-pop look like anime or anime looks like K-pop? I don't even know at this point,
Yeah, they definitely made a huge change, because like back then the main protagonists used to be like really big and bulky, and now they're all really slim and slim looking, very skinny and tall.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, like a traditional anime antagonist or protagonist and even antagonist was like a Goku type character, jacked, like ridiculous proportions. Now you have people like Levi, for example, in Attack on Titan, dude, not an ounce of muscle on him, but they're still beasts. So that weird.
Put some respect on that name. That's the most badass motherfucker.
Some respect on the name. Now the anime heroes become androgynous badasses. So that's the thing now, where it's more about making these guys. It's like they're almost effeminately badass. That's what it is. It's all about the attitude as well too. Is a big thing now, because a token anime, like I guess you can say shonen protagonist used to be like Goku, happy-go-lucky, almost dumb to a certain degree, very naive, always happy, even in the face of evil. Now the whole Sasuke type character is like every anime protagonist now has to have a little darkness to him, a little edge to him, a little like angst to him. Otherwise, people are not interested. But that's just a matter of the times changing.
Yeah. Well, I think we should end it there. Ricky, you had mentioned, or I'd mentioned, that you had a podcast in the beginning of the show. So if you want to let people know what it is, where they can find you, and all that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks for letting me plug my stuff, man. You can find me at Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook and on YouTube, Instagram and Twitch. Or Instagram is at RickyVang92, and then Twitch is at Ricky Vang. Twitch.tv/Ricky Vang. I'm currently working on episodes that'll be going live on Facebook and Twitch. So I don't know when you'll have this episode up, but it'll be
It'll
on
be this Saturday. So whatever
Saturday.
day
Okay, so
Saturday is.
yeah, so let's see, since this will be up this coming Saturday, the following Friday and the Friday after that, before Thanksgiving, I'll have live episodes on Facebook and Twitch, and then
Cool.
usually the stuff that's recorded and edited will be on Sundays. So definitely check it out.
Cool. Let us know when they're live, and I'll promote it on our page, and that way, people can join in.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks, man.
Cool. If you you like this podcast, this episode, or you like us talking about eating beaver ass, smash that like button, follow button. There's definitely gonna be more of that random shit that we'll talk about maybe next week. If you don't, still tune in for What's Got Us Puzzled, because I guarantee you it'll be weird as fuck. Follow us on our social media. Puzzled Minds Podcast is on Instagram, and Twitter is Puzzled Minds Pod. And last but not least, thank you at Official Block of the Week for the weekly Instagram cover arts. Other than that, everyone stay puzzled.